You know, Carla, we've talked about doing something like this together for some time, coming together, doing something really powerful. And now here we are. And so you and I have the opportunity to really come together from our hearts, include our experiences, to be vulnerable, to share the pieces of us that you and I share together. We're going to have an opportunity to share that with others, which is, to be transparent, it's wonderful and scary at the same time. It's one thing to share it with two people. It's another thing to open that up to the world. And so I want to talk with you a little bit about why we're coming together and how who we are informs this experience that we are creating on the magical island of Anguilla. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So first of all, I really love what you said about how this has been a formative process, that it's sort of converged until this moment of time, which is the right time for us to be really stepping forward, not just with that acquired life experience and really wisdom that we have elected to embrace, through the episodes of our lives, not just because of that, but because I think what was important that you said is that whole piece about we're willing to be revealed on behalf of the people that we have this incredible desire to be of service to. And I think that walks out of these years of trying to find our way without really having powerful women mentors and models and wisdom guides to lead us. So we have become that which we sought for decades. And I just don't want it to stop here.
Yeah, so you said something right now, and I want you to share a little bit more about that. We have not always had those powerful women role models. You, being a physician, talk to me a little bit about your story and what that was like for you, not having women in those leadership roles as a physician.
Yeah. So for me, I was very careful to camouflage my feminine spirit, and anything that I didn't feel would allow me to survive in a very paternalistic environment. So I really sort of just kept that under wraps. And I left pieces of myself sort of behind, not really on the road, but in the back rooms of my heart and in the back rooms of my consciousness, because I didn't think that I could navigate this terrain and show up as a woman, right? And I remember the only woman that I encountered was another physician when I first started in practice, and she pulled me back into a room and she said, "You need to go home and watch the news. You need to cut your hair and you need to put a business suit on like those women have, because no one will respect you if you show up with long curly hair wearing casual clothes and a white coat." So I not only didn't have women mentors, but the women who were walking that same walk as me held on to that same rigid belief system that there was a certain way that we as women needed to be presenced in order to keep our spot in line.
Wow. So there's so much of your story that resonates for me, but mine is the same, but different. And so I'm a registered nurse by background and have been in hospital executive leadership for many years. For me, I actually had women role models, but they didn't look like me, right? They didn't talk like me. They didn't have my same life lived experience. So I grew up thinking, okay, I've got to be like them. That's what success looks like, because there was no one like me at the top, particularly at the CEO level and at the hospital. There were very few people that looked like me, and certainly not in my close sphere of influence. There was no one that looked like me. So the pieces that you speak about, that's the piece. Who I was as a Black woman, as a leader, showing up proud in this space, that's the piece of me that I left behind, right? And so even as recently as the past couple of years, I have been trying to pick up the pieces, to get those pieces back and to say, you know what, this is all of me. This is who I am. I am enough. And so I think that what we're doing together is going to be something that's really, really powerful.
I was just thinking about when we met. So when we met, you were the CEO of a hospital, and I was your chief medical officer. And I think about the people we were, the iteration of ourselves, because we were about the business of it. Rhonda, do you remember that? And as well, we should have been, right? But we were on task and about business. And I saw a little sign the other day that Joan Didion did that said, you know, I've already lost touch with some versions of myself I used to be. Right? But I really want to just capture that moment for a moment, because we were successful at what we did. We were very, very busy. We were acknowledged. We were esteemed. But I'm curious, and I don't know if I've ever really asked you this question, what your inner experience was like as you had this outer reflection of being a very successful woman and a very successful Black woman in a leadership position. And what was going on inside of you?
Yeah, oh my gosh. So that is, I don't think you have ever asked me that question. But you know what was going on inside of me was a bit of a battle, a bit of turmoil, some conflict, a feeling of, am I an imposter? Because yes, I'm showing up this way and I can be successful when I show up this way, but could I ever be successful if I showed up the other way, right? And what happens if I do that? And so it was almost as if I was living in two worlds. It really didn't come to my awareness though. I wasn't aware really, Carla, that I was doing that. I was not aware that I was creating these two personas. And one day, as I started to shift into the world of coaching, and I started getting in front of videos and doing little snippets of videos and promoting my coaching and my executive coaching business that I moved into, my sons, who are my dearest business partners, love them dearly, but they sometimes give me straight talk. And I created this video. I was so proud of this video because I am also an introvert. And so it's easy for me to stay in sort of my little space, my little bubble, and not do a lot of interacting. So I was proud. I'm stepping out there. I'm in front of the camera. And so I created this video and I showed it to my son. And he said, so who is that person? And I said, well, what is it? And he said, oh my goodness. He said, I don't really see or feel any of you in that. And we argue. I said, what do you mean? This is me, and this is how he said, that's not how I hear you. There's a whole voice change. There's a whole everything that's happening here. You know, it took me some time to really accept and acknowledge and appreciate what he's actually sharing with me. And I think that helped start me on my journey. I reflect on it quite a bit today. And if I find myself even falling back into those old patterns, I just remember, come forward, bring your full authentic self to this experience. And my show, the Coffee with Rhonda show, has also helped me do that and helped me know that it's okay. Whoever you are, however you are, whatever pieces are flying here and there, it's all good. It's okay. So thank you for that question. I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, long ago and far away. Mm-hmm. And thank you for being willing to share.
Yeah.
what that experience was inside, and to lead to that great conversation with your child, because they know us.
They do know us. And, and I imagine that there was let me ask you, Carla, what was the point for you when you really began to step out and own all of who you are?
Well, I really poured my heart and soul, all of my physical energy, my emotional energy, my intellectual energy into this work that I did for such a long time. And you may or may not know that there's not enough doing in the world to feed that existential hunger inside of you that wants to express its way of being. So in a certain way, I had that same paradox. This is the face I show you, and this is what lives in here. And I was fortunately, I was surrounded by people who cared about me, but I kind of had become a bully in the workplace. I had a stairwell. It was the 2B stairwell in my hospital, and I would go to that stairwell and curl up in a corner and cry. And then I could stop at a bathroom and wash my face and then go back up to the frame, because that was the only space that I felt I could be safe, to feel my feelings. But I was confronted by a nurse who told me that I was scary and I'd become a bully. And in that moment, and you know the story, but in that moment, I could feel myself just rising up I was ready to rumble with her. Like, I am ready, like, bring it on. And nobody cares more, nobody works harder, nobody says yes more. I had a whole, several pages of why I gained a dispensation for being bullyish. And I can only describe this as a moment of pure grace, because something soft opened inside of me and said, oh, that's true. And instead of being ashamed, which has kind of been my default, and the thing that kept me keeping things hidden, instead of experiencing that shame, I just was really humbled in that moment and realized that nothing about that was the way that I wanted to be in the world. So that was probably my real turning point. I mean, I was pretty burned out at that point. I was pretty exhausted. But so I'm grateful that there was some little spark left inside that was willing to be ignited. And then I just started searching, and the more I searched, the more things came to me that would help me. People and programs and children and all of those kinds of things. And by the way, I had an experience with my kids that was also pretty in my face, because they sat down and said to me, we see what you're doing and we think you're going to die. So we'd like to know what you'd like us to do when that happens, because we can't stop you. Right? So that was also pretty sobering. I didn't hear it in the moment, but I heard it within a few months, and that's the same point that nurse invited me into an awareness that I didn't want to see. And then I just started searching, and started growing and started connecting, and every little stuttering step has made a difference.
Oh my goodness, so powerful. It's so interesting, the role that our families play in this for us. And I also think there's something in our willingness to give them permission to play those roles in our lives, because not everybody does, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, when you speak about personas, there's also like, there's the social self, right? And the professional self. But there's also that very intimate space that we share only with those who are closest to us, who are in our really close inner circle. And they see us through eyes that are different than either the social world sees us or the professional world sees us. And so I think if there's a place that I personally was most revealed was in that space. And the real, challenge to me was, why would I ever need to be anything different in any of those spaces?
Right. I love it. I love the willingness just to be, right? So I do leadership coaching and speaking and workshops, and I will open up my workshops now going, let me tell you about me, right? I yell at football games. No, I'm not a Cowboys fan, even though I live in Texas. I'm a huge Eagles fan, still Birds, right? I would have never done that before. I now show up fully in that space, and I laugh, and I'm a little bit silly, right? And I'm able to do that because I have come to a place of knowing that it's okay, that I'm still safe. So as we are going on this endeavor and we are fostering and building this community, because that's how I feel about the work that we're going to be doing in Anguilla. What do you want our community to know? What do you want them to think about this experience?
The first thing is, so we've talked about this, and because we have objectives, right? Because that's how we roll, right? But I really want to speak at a different level than that, right? And that is, and I think what you talked about is really matters, and that is what happens when a group of women who are on purpose and liberated from the inside out. What happens when we gather, right? Because wisdom flows, and creativity flows, and awareness flows, and inspiration flows, and tears flow, and giggles flow, and something, another entity emerges at the heart of a group of women who gather together in support of and around something that matters to each one of us in our own unique ways, right? Because we're not all the same, but we have that shared experience. So the first thing is, there's this great invitation and this great opportunity of belonging. And out of that belonging, and out of that safety, and out of that understanding that imperfection is perfect, something arises we've never seen, never thought of, that matters to us, that makes a difference. We are one thought away from an entirely different experience in our lives. And who knows where that thought will come from? Who knows what will get inspired in that kind of setting? So I see it as an adventure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love all of that. And I was thinking, and I want them to just have a joyous curiosity about exploring and being and uncovering and feeling seen and heard, right? I just know that it's going to unfold to something special and different and unique to each person that joins us. And whatever unfolds for you is perfectly okay. And we will not allow our objectives and our agenda to get in the way. And in fact, our entire design is about supporting and fostering that being and that unfolding.
Yeah. It's yes, it is. And so the experience is created to be an experience. So yes, there's stuff to learn. Yes, there are back pocket tools that are going to be useful, right? Yes, we can talk about things like, is there a space inside of you that knows that no is okay, right? Without guilt, that kind of no. All of those things. So all of that's available. But what I think you and I are talking about right now, and we talked about just a little bit ago before we connected today in this way, is what we really are trying to create is a visceral experience. Something that you feel in your bones, in the gut of you, whatever that is, in the heart of you, that really reaches in and touches people in the space of their greatest aliveness, right? And to help that be revealed.
And to say, it's time to say yes. It's time to say yes to you.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever that means, whatever that looks like.
Say yes to you is the important part that I think. So I had a coach once who said to me, sort of about the time, Rhonda, that we were working together, and just self-disclosure, and I'm going to disclose for you as well. Rhonda and I have been masterful in our lifetime of being women who do too much, and really having to incrementally check and say, oh, there I go doing that again. Let me slow down. Let me reassess. Let me recommit to the things that I'm really committed to, and take a look at the things that I just feel obliged to do, and whether that has value or not. But I had a coach who said to me, don't tell me about your yeses anymore. Which, of course, I took offense at. But then he said, you just say yes to anything. Your yeses don't mean a single thing. And as I thought about that, I realized that I would say yes to things, and then 24 hours later I would go, why did I say I would do that? And then 3 weeks later I resented the people that I had said yes to. Couldn't wait to get out of there. Really didn't want to underperform because my ego didn't like that very idea. Didn't have the emotional intelligence to negotiate a different agreement. So I kind of walked around in that space of, way too much, said yes to way too many things that I didn't want to be doing, which meant I had to say no to a whole bunch of stuff that was really heartfelt for me. Thought that there was something good about that kind of sacrifice, that made something of me. And then just was mad at everybody I worked with. But, not in an overt way, just that passive aggressive kind of way. And then felt awful at the end of the day. So I just, if I were someone that I loved, and we'll talk about that also, if I were someone that I loved like my child, or someone who I held tenderly in my heart, is that the experience I would want for them at the end of the day? And why would I then think that was what I deserved to live?
I love the way that our experiences are shaping and informing our own knowing about ourselves, first of all, and the fact that we are still on this journey. We periodically still check in with each other and go, oh, we're in that space, gotta dial it back, or just pay attention and be mindful. Carla, as we close this conversation, and I loved everything about it, what's the invitation before women who watch this and might be thinking, this is not for me, I can't do it, I don't have time, I'm not the person for this? What's the invitation?
Well, you're probably not going to like this, but that voice that's telling you that voice is a liar, right? And that's a manifestation of the way that we limit ourselves to keep ourselves well cocooned in a zone of comfort. And magic does not unfold in our comfort zone. So my invitation, our invitation, mine is, is that you have the strength of heart and the courage, right, to take one small step on your own behalf and just see what happens.
Awesome. Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much for this conversation and helping people get to know us a little bit more, understanding who we are, what we're bringing to this, and why it matters for us personally on that visceral level. So thank you for the conversation.
Thank you for the conversation. Best partner ever. Thank you so much for the honor of working in this way with me.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone out there has questions for us, you know how to reach us. Carla and I are here to answer any questions that you might have about this experience.